The burner phone in my desk drawer buzzed at 2:56 a.m., 3 weeks after I'd hidden it there. I stared at the ceiling of our bedroom, listening to Emily's steady breathing beside me, and knew that whatever message waited for me would end the life I'd built over 12 years of marriage. I'd planted that phone in my own desk, programmed it myself, set up the forwarding protocol from Emily's cloud account after noticing she'd started password protecting her cell for the first time in our entire relationship. That was 6 weeks ago, right after she joined the Executive Mentorship Program at Whitmore and Associates, the consulting firm where she'd worked for the past 3 years. The changes had been subtle at first. New perfume, gym sessions that stretched from an hour to 2.5, business trips that somehow never appeared on the shared calendar anymore. But the real tell was simpler than any of that. Emily had stopped looking me in the eye. I slipped out of bed, careful not to disturb the mattress too much, and padded downstairs to my home office. The phone's screen cast a pale glow across my face as I unlocked it. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Room 847, same hotel. I'll make sure I'm there by 7. The message was from a number saved in her contacts as Jillian, HR. Except I knew for a fact that Jillian Peterson from HR was a 62-year-old grandmother who'd sent us a pasta maker for our wedding. I'd thanked her personally at the company holiday party last December. I opened the message thread. The forwarding app had been collecting everything for 3 weeks now, ever since I'd figured out her iCloud password. It wasn't hard. She'd used our daughter's birthday combined with her mother's maiden name. The same password she'd used for everything until she suddenly changed them all. Everything except the cloud backup. She'd forgotten about that. I scrolled through the messages, my jaw clenching tighter with each exchange. They went back 4 months. 4 months of "can't stop thinking about you" and "my wife doesn't understand me," and detailed plans for their next encounter. 4 months of my wife telling another man things she used to tell me, back when we still talked about anything beyond grocery lists and Mia's soccer schedule. The man's real name was Trevor Walsh, senior partner at Whitmore. 46 years old, married with 3 kids, living in a McMansion in the Riverside Heights neighborhood. I knew because I'd already done my homework. I'd spent the last 3 weeks becoming very familiar with Trevor Walsh's life while pretending everything was normal at home. I took screenshots of everything, backed them up to 3 separate encrypted drives, and sent copies to an email account Emily didn't know existed. Then I opened my laptop and checked the GPS tracker I'd installed on her car. The data was damning. Every Tuesday and Thursday for the past 4 months, Emily's car had spent 2 to 3 hours parked at the Grandview Hotel on Adams Boulevard. The same hotel where Trevor Walsh's corporate card showed regular charges for room service and premium suites. I'd gotten that information from a private investigator named Jack Thornton, who'd cost me $8,000 but delivered a portfolio that read like a case study in infidelity. Credit card receipts. Hotel security footage timestamps. Photographs of Emily and Trevor entering the hotel separately, then leaving together. Even a statement from a hotel housekeeper who'd noticed the same 2 people checking into room 847 twice a week for months. I'd wanted to be wrong. God, I'd wanted to be wrong, but I wasn't. Tomorrow was Thursday. According to the message, they'd be meeting at 7 p.m., which meant Emily would tell me she had a late client presentation or a team dinner, or whatever lie she'd crafted for this week. She'd gotten good at lying. I'd watched her practice in the mirror once, thinking she was alone in our bedroom, smoothing her expression into something earnest and apologetic about having to work late again. I closed the laptop and sat in the darkness of my office, surrounded by the artifacts of our life together. Our wedding photo on the shelf. Mia's artwork taped to the wall. The world's best dad mug Emily had given me last Father's Day, probably bought between meetings with her lover. The rage came in waves, hot and cold, making my hands shake. But underneath it was something worse. Grief. The woman I'd married, the mother of my daughter, the person I'd trusted more than anyone in the world. She was gone. Maybe she'd been gone for a while and I'd just been too blind or too comfortable to notice. I thought about confronting her right now, waking her up, showing her the evidence, demanding answers. But I'd learned enough over the past 3 weeks to know that was exactly the wrong move. Emotional confrontations led to denials, gaslighting, and destroyed evidence. They led to hasty decisions made in anger that you'd regret in divorce court. No, I needed to be smarter than that. I was a project manager for a software development firm. I'd built my career on planning, documentation, and executing complex strategies under pressure. If I was going to do this, I was going to do it right. I opened a new document on my laptop and started typing. Not a letter to Emily, not a confrontation script, a project plan, timeline, objectives, resources, risk mitigation, exit strategy. By the time the sun started rising outside my office window, I had a roadmap for dismantling my marriage with the same precision I'd used to sunset a failed product launch. And tomorrow night, while my wife was in room 847 with Trevor Walsh, I'd be setting the first phase in motion. The Wine Society started 3 months ago. I know because that's when Emily first mentioned it. Some colleagues and I are thinking of starting a wine appreciation group, she'd said over dinner. Just a few people from the office who want to learn more about fine wines. We'd meet twice a month at different restaurants. I'd thought it was a nice idea, a harmless hobby, something to help her decompress from work stress. The credit card statements told a different story. Sitting in my home office at 1 a.m, I scrolled through 3 months of charges. Bellissimo on 4th Street, The Garden Room, Chateau Noir, Le Bernardin. Every restaurant was upscale. Every bill ranged from $300 to $700. And according to the itemized receipts I'd pulled from her email, she was terrible about deleting merchant confirmations. Every dinner was for exactly 2 people. 2 bottles of wine, 2 entrees, 2 desserts. The Riverside Wine Appreciation Society, as Emily called it, had a membership of precisely 2 people, my wife and Trevor Walsh. I pulled up the private investigator's timeline. Jack had been thorough. The hotel meetings happened Tuesdays and Thursdays. The restaurant visits fell on alternating Fridays. Same pattern for 12 weeks straight. They weren't just having an affair, they were having a relationship. Date nights. Romantic dinners where they pretended to be sophisticated wine enthusiasts, probably getting special treatment from restaurant staff who thought they were representing some exclusive organization. My phone showed a text from Emily, sent 4 hours ago. Wine Society meeting tonight. Don't wait up. We're trying a new place in the Arts District. I opened the shared calendar. R was meeting, 7 p.m., blocked out her entire evening. The beauty of it struck me. The sheer audacity. She'd created a completely fabricated organization, given it an official-sounding name, and used it as cover for romantic dinners with her lover. Meanwhile, I was home with Mia, heating up leftovers, helping with homework, being the dependable husband who supported his wife's interests. I pulled up the Riverside Wine Appreciation Society's online presence. Emily had actually created a website. Basic, but professional looking. A stock photo of wine glasses. Some generic text about passionate wine enthusiasts dedicated to expanding their palates and knowledge. A contact form that probably went nowhere. She'd even created a logo. The private investigator's photos from tonight showed Emily and Trevor at Bellissimo, the same restaurant they'd visited 4 times already. They were at what appeared to be their regular table, near the window. The sommelier was presenting a bottle for Trevor's inspection. Emily was laughing at something he'd said. They look like a couple. Not 2 colleagues having a professional dinner. A couple. I opened a new document and started typing. Saturday morning, Emily slept until 10. She always slept late after her wine society meetings. I'd already been up for 4 hours reviewing my plan, making phone calls, sending carefully worded emails. When she finally came downstairs, I was making pancakes with Mia. "How was the meeting?" I asked, keeping my voice light. "Really good." Emily poured coffee, avoiding eye contact like she always did now. "We tried some excellent Barolos. I'm learning so much." "That's great. You know, I've been thinking I'd love to learn more about wine too. Maybe I could join the society?" She froze for just a moment. "Oh, well, we're keeping it pretty small right now, just the core members." "How many members are there?" 6 of us, but we're not really looking to expand at the moment." 6. The number came out smooth as silk. She didn't even hesitate. "That's too bad," I said, flipping a pancake. "It sounds really interesting. Where do you meet?" "Different places. We rotate through various restaurants to get diverse experiences." "Makes sense. Which restaurant was it last night?" Another pause, barely perceptible. "Bellissimo, on 4th Street. At least that part was true. "Maybe I could come as a guest sometime, just to observe." "I'll ask the group." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "They're pretty particular about maintaining the intimate atmosphere." Intimate. That was certainly one word for it. Monday afternoon, I made the first call. "Bellissimo, how may I help you?" "Hi, my name is David Peterson. I'm calling about the Riverside Wine Appreciation Society. I believe they're regular guests at your establishment?" "Oh yes, Mr. Walsh and Ms. Emily. They're wonderful customers. Is there something I can help you with?" Mr. Walsh and Ms. Emily. Not the society, just the 2 of them. "I'm actually doing some research. I was told the society has 6 members, and I'm interested in potentially joining. Have you seen the other 4 members at their dinners?" A pause. "I'm sorry, I think there might be some confusion. We've only ever served the 2 of them. They mentioned being part of a wine group, but it's always just been Mr. Walsh and his companion." "I see. And they've asked for special accommodations? Group discounts, perhaps?" "Well, yes. They receive our wine club discount, which is typically reserved for groups of 4 or more." Mr. Walsh explained they were representing a larger organization and would be bringing other members in the future. "We've been happy to extend the courtesy." "How much is that discount?" 20% on wine selections, 15% on food." I did the math. Over 3 months, across multiple restaurants, they'd probably saved close to $2,000 by misrepresenting themselves. "Thank you for your time," I said. "I think there's been a significant misunderstanding about this organization." I called 6 more restaurants over the next 2 days. The story was the same everywhere. 2 people, claiming to represent a wine society, receiving group discounts and preferential treatment. Reserved tables. Sommelier attention. Complimentary tastings meant for larger parties. The garden room had even held a table for them during peak hours, turning away other customers because they thought they were accommodating an important wine appreciation group. Wednesday evening, I sent a carefully composed email to each restaurant. I attached screenshots of the Riverside Wine Appreciation Society website, along with documentation showing it was registered to Emily's personal email address 3 months ago. I included photos from the private investigator showing only 2 people at each dinner. I provided copies of credit card statements demonstrating the pattern. The email was professional, factual. I expressed concern that my wife and her colleague might have unintentionally misrepresented their organization's size and scope. I suggested the restaurants might want to verify the nature of the group before extending further courtesies. I didn't mention the affair. I didn't need to. The evidence spoke clearly enough. 2 people had been systematically misrepresenting themselves to receive benefits meant for larger groups. Thursday morning, Emily's phone started ringing. She was in the shower when the first call came. I heard it buzzing on the nightstand. Then another. Then another. By the time she emerged, wrapped in a towel, there were 7 missed calls. "Everything okay?" I asked from the bedroom doorway. She checked her phone, and I watched the color drain from her face. "I need to make some calls," she said. She locked herself in the home office. I could hear her voice through the door, rising in pitch. "No, there's been a misunderstanding. Yes, we are a real organization. I don't know who would send that." Her phone rang again. Then again. When she finally emerged an hour later, she looked shaken. "Something wrong?" I asked. "Someone's been spreading false information about the Wine Society. Several restaurants have called. They're threatening to revoke our membership benefits." "That's terrible. What kind of false information?" "Claiming we're not a real organization, that we've been misrepresenting ourselves." Her hands were shaking. "I don't understand who would do this. Maybe someone from work? Someone jealous of the society?" She looked at me sharply, searching my face for something. I kept my expression neutral, concerned. "Maybe," she said finally. "I need to go into the office. Try to sort this out." She left 20 minutes later, moving fast, phone pressed to her ear. I waited until her car disappeared down the street, then opened my laptop. Jack had sent new photos from this morning. Trevor Walsh leaving his house, checking his phone, his expression grim. Emily arriving at Whitmore and Associates, practically running from her car. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Bellissimo has banned them both. Garden Room, too. This is spreading fast." I didn't respond. I just sat there in my home office, surrounded by evidence folders and documentation, and felt something cold settle in my chest. Phase 1 was complete. The calls from restaurants kept coming through Thursday evening. Emily's phone buzzed constantly during dinner. She'd excused herself 3 times, returning each time with her face a shade paler. Mia chattered about her science project between bites of pasta, oblivious to the tension radiating from her mother. I ate methodically, cutting my chicken into precise pieces. Each buzz of Emily's phone was a small victory, a crack in the facade she'd maintained for months. "You okay?" I asked when she returned from the 4th call. "Fine, just some mix-up with the Wine Society." She pushed food around her plate. "Administrative stuff." "That's frustrating." I kept my voice level. "Anything I can help with?" "No, I'll handle it." She wouldn't meet my eyes. After Mia went to bed, Emily retreated to the guest room with her laptop. Through the wall, I could hear her frantic typing. I sat in my office, monitoring the forwarded messages on my burner phone. Emily to Trevor, 9:47 p.m. They're calling it fraud. 4 restaurants so far. Someone sent them documentation proving the society doesn't exist. How did this happen? Trevor to Emily, 9:52 p.m. Calm down, we'll figure it out. Could be someone from your firm? Emily to Trevor, 9:53 p.m. Why would anyone care? We weren't hurting anyone. I almost laughed at that. The entitlement was stunning. They'd lied to businesses for discounts on their romantic dinners while I stayed home with our daughter. But sure, they weren't hurting anyone. Trevor to Emily, 10:08 p.m. Meet me tomorrow, not the hotel, coffee place on Lexington, 2 p.m. Emily to Trevor, 10:09 p.m. I have a client meeting. Trevor to Emily, 10:10 p.m. Cancel it. I took a screenshot, added it to the growing file. Jack had delivered his final report that afternoon, another $2,000 for the extended surveillance. Worth every penny. The binder sat in my locked desk drawer. 147 pages of documentation, photographs, witness statements, financial records. The PI had even tracked their spending patterns. Over $12,000 in the past 4 months on dinners alone. The group discounts had saved them roughly $2,400. My retirement account contribution for the same period, $2,000. The numbers told their own story. Friday morning, Emily claimed she needed to work from a coffee shop for better focus. She left at 1:30 p.m., wearing the cream blouse she'd bought 2 months ago. The one I'd complimented, not knowing it was part of her affair wardrobe. I'd taken the afternoon off, told my boss I had a family matter to handle. Not technically a lie. The coffee place on Lexington was called Brew Point. I'd never been there, but I'd researched it thoroughly after seeing Trevor's message. 2 entrances, large windows facing the street, popular enough to blend in, but quiet enough for conversation. Smart choice for a clandestine meeting. I arrived at 1:50 p.m., claimed a corner table with a view of both entrances, and opened my laptop. Just another remote worker nursing an overpriced latte. Trevor arrived first, at 1:58 p.m. Tall, graying at the temples, expensive suit. He ordered something complicated and sat near the back windows. His leg bounced under the table. Nervous. Emily walked in at 2:03 p.m. She spotted him immediately, her face transforming into an expression I hadn't seen in months. Soft. Open. The way she used to look at me. I focused on my screen, tracking them in my peripheral vision. They sat close, heads together. Trevor's hand covered hers on the table. I couldn't hear their conversation over the espresso machine and ambient music, but I didn't need to. Their body language said everything. The way she leaned into him. The way he touched her arm. The intimacy of 2 people who'd crossed every boundary that mattered. I pulled out my phone, angled it carefully, and took 3 photos. Not for evidence. I had plenty. For myself. To remember this moment when doubt crept in later. When the part of me that still loved her tried to rationalize or forgive. They talked for 43 minutes. Emily cried at one point, dabbing her eyes with a napkin. Trevor looked angry, gesturing sharply. Their romantic crisis meeting wasn't going well. When Emily left at 2:46 p.m., she looked shaken. Trevor stayed behind, making a phone call that involved a lot of pacing and aggressive hand movements. I waited 10 minutes after Emily's departure, packed up my laptop, and left. Trevor was still there, still on his phone, still agitated. Phase 2 was already in motion. I'd started it Wednesday night, after confirming the restaurant exposures were landing. The email to Whitmore and Associates HR department had been carefully crafted. No accusations, just concerns. A worried husband who'd noticed his wife's unusual work schedule. Late meetings with senior partner Trevor Walsh. Extended dinners categorized as professional development. Hotel charges on expense reports that seemed irregular. I'd attached nothing definitive, just enough to raise questions. Let their own policies and procedures do the work. The email came from a burner account, untraceable to me. Sent through a VPN routed through 3 servers. My software background had its advantages. By Friday evening, Emily was a wreck. She'd received a call from HR requesting a meeting Monday morning. Standard procedure, they'd said. Just some expense report clarifications. They're auditing my expenses, she told me over dinner. Her hands shook. Someone flagged irregularities. I'm sure it's routine, I said. Companies do random audits all the time. It's not random. They specifically mentioned meals with Trevor. I cut my steak. Trevor's a senior partner, right? Makes sense you'd have working dinners. That's what I told them. She pushed her plate away, barely touched. But they want receipts, calendar invitations, meeting notes, everything. Well, you have all that, don't you? The look she gave me was pure panic, because of course she didn't. The dinners weren't business meetings. There were no calendar invitations, no meeting agendas, no client discussions to document. Just 2 people playing pretend with a fake wine society, stealing moments between their real lives. Most of it, she said finally. I'll need to reconstruct some details. I'm sure you'll figure it out. I took a sip of water. You're good at problem solving. That night, I heard her crying in the guest room. Soft, muffled sounds she tried to hide. Part of me, the part that remembered 12 years of marriage, of building a life together, wanted to go to her. To comfort her like I had through her father's death, through 2 miscarriages before Mia, through every crisis we'd faced as partners, but we weren't partners anymore. She'd made that choice when she created a fake wine society to cover romantic dinners with another man. When she'd looked me in the eye and lied about Tuesday and Thursday meetings. When she'd let me stay home with our daughter while she built a separate life. I stayed in my office, reviewing Phase 3. The letter to Trevor's wife was already written. Saved in drafts, waiting for the right moment. Not yet. The HR investigation needed to develop first. Let the professional consequences build. Let them feel the walls closing in. Then the personal devastation. I'd found Linda Walsh's information easily enough. Public records, social media, professional networking sites. She was a pediatric nurse, active in their church, frequently posted photos of their 3 kids. Her most recent post was from their daughter's volleyball tournament. Proud mom moment, she'd captioned it. She deserved to know her husband was spending thousands on romantic dinners with the subordinate while she worked night shifts at the hospital. My letter laid out the facts clinically. Dates, locations, expenses. I'd included select text messages, nothing explicit but intimate enough to be damning. The hotel receipts, the fake wine society they'd created together. I'd debated including photos, but decided against it. The documentation was enough. Let her imagination fill in the rest. Sometimes not knowing the details was worse than seeing them. The envelope sat in my desk drawer, addressed and stamped. Waiting. Saturday morning, Emily stayed in bed until noon. When she finally emerged, her eyes were red-rimmed, her hair unwashed. She moved through the house like a ghost, barely acknowledging Mia's attempts at conversation. Is Mom sick? Mia asked me while we made lunch. She's just stressed about work, sweetheart. She'll be okay. Would she? I didn't know. Didn't particularly care anymore. My concern was for Mia, for minimizing the damage to our daughter when everything inevitably collapsed. I'd already consulted with a divorce attorney. Not the meeting, not yet. Just a preliminary phone call to understand my options. Virginia was an equitable distribution state, not community property. The affair could impact alimony. Documentation was crucial. "You've done excellent groundwork," the attorney had said. "When you're ready to proceed, call me." I wasn't ready yet. Phase 3 needed to complete first, then Phase 4. I'd learned project management principles over 15 years in software development. Define objectives. Break down deliverables. Execute in logical sequence. Monitor progress. Adjust as needed. Same skills, different application. My objective was clear. Dismantle the life Emily had built on lies while protecting Mia and preserving my own future. The deliverables were specific. Professional consequences. Social exposure. Financial accountability. Legal resolution. I was currently in Phase 3. Workplace exposure. The HR investigation would take 2 to 3 weeks based on typical corporate timelines. They'd interview Emily, Trevor, review expense reports, check company policies on workplace relationships and conflicts of interest. Trevor was a senior partner. Emily was significantly junior. The power dynamic alone would raise flags. Add in the fraudulent expense reporting, the deception, the fake wine society they'd created. Whitmore and Associates had a reputation to protect. They wouldn't tolerate this kind of liability. Phase 4 would begin when the HR investigation reached its conclusion. That's when Linda Walsh would receive her letter. When Trevor's carefully constructed life would crater alongside Emily's. Phase 5 was the legal proceedings. Divorce, custody arrangements, asset division. I'd already started documenting everything for that. Separate bank account opened at a different institution, copies of all financial records, list of marital assets, timeline of the affair. My attorney would be very happy with my preparation. Sunday evening, Emily finally tried to talk to me. Really talk, not just logistics about Mia's schedule or household tasks. "Can we sit down?" she asked. "I need to discuss something." We sat in the living room. She perched on the edge of the couch, hands twisted together. "The HR thing at work," she started. "It's more serious than I thought." "How serious?" "They're investigating my relationship with Trevor." She watched my face carefully. "Someone made allegations." "What kind of allegations?" "That we're—" She trailed off. "That it's inappropriate." I waited. Let the silence stretch. "It's not what they think," she said finally. "We're friends. We've had workin' dinners. But someone's making it seem like something else." The lie came so easily to her. Smooth. Practiced. "That sounds stressful," I said. "What does Trevor say?" "He's worried about his reputation, the firm's reputation." She looked down. "He thinks we should distance ourselves until it blows over." "Probably smart." I kept my voice neutral. "These things can get messy." "David." She met my eyes. "If they ask you anything, if anyone contacts you, it's all professional. The dinners, the wine society events, everything. Just colleagues who became friends. Okay?" She was asking me to lie for her, to cover for her affair. The audacity was breathtaking. "Why would anyone contact me?" "They might not, but if they do, I just need you to understand it's not what it looks like." "What does it look like?" She stood abruptly. "Never mind. Forget I said anything." She left the room, and I sat there in the gathering darkness, thinking about how far we'd fallen, how completely she'd destroyed everything we'd built. My phone buzzed. A forwarded message from Emily's cloud account. Emily to Trevor, 8:34 p.m. I tried talking to David, laying groundwork in case HR contacts him. He didn't seem suspicious, but I can't tell anymore. Everything's falling apart. Trevor to Emily, 8:41 p.m. Stay calm. Stick to the story. We're colleagues. The wine society was real, just small. Nothing inappropriate happened. They can't prove otherwise. I took a screenshot. They were wrong about that last part. I could prove everything. And I would. The HR investigation reached its conclusion on a Tuesday afternoon. I was in a meeting when my phone buzzed with a text from Emily. They're putting me on administrative leave, effective immediately. I stared at the message for a full minute before typing back, "What happened?" "Can't talk now. Coming home early." I excused myself from the meeting and drove home, arriving 20 minutes before Emily. The house felt different now, like a museum of our former life. Everything looked the same, but the meaning had drained out of it all. She walked in at 3:47 p.m., her face pale and drawn. The tailored blazer she wore looked wrong on her now, like a costume she'd forgotten how to wear properly. "They're investigating Trevor and me," she said without preamble. "Someone sent HR documentation about our dinners. Receipts, dates, everything. They're calling it a conflict of interest and misuse of company resources." I set down my coffee mug, the world's best dad one that Mia had given me last Father's Day. "That sounds serious. David, I need you to understand something." She sat down across from me at the kitchen table, the same table where we'd eaten 1,000 meals together. Trevor and I, we were just networking, building client relationships. The wine society thing, that was just a way to make it more formal, more professional. The lie sat between us like something physical. I could see her watching me, trying to gauge whether I believed her. "Why would HR care about networking?" I asked. "Because someone made it sound like something it wasn't." Her voice had an edge now. "They're questioning why we didn't include other team members, why the expenses weren't properly documented, why we met outside normal business hours. Those seem like reasonable questions." She stood abruptly, pacing to the window. "I could lose my job over this. Trevor, too. And for what? For having dinner with a colleague?" I let the silence stretch. This was the closest we'd come to an actual conversation about what was happening, and I wanted to see how far she'd take it. "They want me to provide documentation proving these were legitimate business expenses," she continued. "Meeting notes, client lists, project justifications. But Trevor and I didn't keep formal records because it was just casual networking, you know? Nothing official." "That does make it difficult," I said carefully. "I need you to back me up if they ask." She turned to face me. "If they contact you about our finances or anything, you need to confirm that the wine society was legitimate, that I was doing this for professional development." There it was, the ask. She wanted me to lie for her, to become complicit in the deception. "What exactly would I be confirming?" I asked. "Just that I was part of a wine appreciation group, that it was for networking and professional growth, that you supported it." I nodded slowly, as if considering it. "Did the wine society help with your career?" "Yes," she said quickly. "Absolutely. Trevor introduced me to several key clients through those dinners. It was valuable face time with senior leadership." The lies came so easily to her now. I wondered if they always had, or if this was something new she'd learned. "I'll need to think about it," I said. Her face hardened. Think about it. David, this is my career we're talking about. Our family's financial stability. Which is why I need to understand the situation fully before making any statements to your employer. She stared at me for a long moment, and I saw something shift in her expression. A calculation. A reassessment. You're being weird about this. I'm being careful, I corrected. If your company is conducting an investigation, I want to make sure anything I say is accurate and truthful. Since when do you talk like a lawyer? Since my wife's job is apparently at stake. She left the kitchen without another word, her footsteps heavy on the stairs. I heard the guest room door close, not slam, but close with a finality that felt permanent. I pulled out my phone and texted Jack Thornton. Phase 3 proceeding as expected. She's on administrative leave. His response came quickly. Stick to the plan. Don't deviate. That evening, I executed Phase 4. The letter to Linda Walsh was already written, already stamped. I'd revised it 7 times over the past week, removing anything that sounded vindictive or emotional, keeping only the facts. Dates, times, locations, photographic evidence. The private investigator's report condensed into 3 pages of devastating clarity. I included screenshots of the messages between Emily and Trevor, the ones where they discussed her schedule, his family commitments, the careful choreography of their deception. I included receipts from the Grandview Hotel, room 847, charged to Trevor's credit card. I included the GPS data showing Emily's car parked there every Tuesday and Thursday for 4 months. At the bottom, I wrote, Mrs. Walsh, you don't know me, but we have something in common. Our spouses have been having an affair for the past 4 months. I discovered this 3 weeks ago and have been gathering documentation to ensure I understood the full scope of their relationship. I'm sending you this information because you deserve to know the truth about your marriage, just as I deserve to know the truth about mine. The enclosed documentation is comprehensive and verified by a licensed private investigator. I'm sorry to be the bearer of this news. No one should have to learn about betrayal this way. I wish you strength in the difficult days ahead. I didn't sign it. There was no need. I drove to the post office at 8:15 p.m. when I knew it would be nearly empty. The letter felt heavier than it should have as I dropped it in the outgoing mail slot. It would arrive at Linda Walsh's house in Riverside Heights in 2 days. Thursday, by my calculation. I'd timed it deliberately. Trevor would be at the office giving her privacy to process the information. When I got home, Emily was in the guest room with the door closed. I could hear her on the phone, her voice low and urgent. Probably talking to Trevor, coordinating their stories, trying to salvage what they could. I went to my home office and opened the encrypted drive where I kept all the documentation. The divorce attorney I'd consulted, Robert Hayes, recommended by a colleague who'd gone through his own messy separation, had reviewed everything last week. This is extremely thorough, he'd said, scrolling through the files on his laptop. GPS data, private investigators report, financial records showing the money she spent. In Virginia, adultery is grounds for fault-based divorce, which can affect property distribution and spousal support. I want primary custody of Mia, I'd told him. With this documentation, that's achievable, especially if we can demonstrate that her affair involved deception that affected family finances and stability. What about her job situation, if she's terminated for cause? Hayes had leaned back in his chair. That actually strengthens your position. If she loses her income due to misconduct related to the affair, the court is less likely to award significant spousal support. You can argue that her actions directly caused her financial hardship. I'd written him a check for the retainer, $7,500, and left with a timeline for filing. We were waiting for the HR investigation to conclude and for Linda Walsh to receive the letter. Hayes wanted to file immediately after both events, when Emily and Trevor would be dealing with maximum fallout. "Strike when they're overwhelmed," he'd said. "They'll make mistakes, agree to terms they might otherwise fight." Now, sitting in my office with the glow of the monitor casting shadows across the walls, I pulled up the draft divorce petition. Hayes had prepared it based on our initial consultation, leaving blanks for final dates and details. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Linda Walsh. I received a package today. We need to talk." I stared at the message. The letter wasn't supposed to arrive until Thursday. I'd calculated 2 days for delivery, but apparently the postal service had been efficient. "I'm sorry you had to find out this way," I typed back. "Can we meet? Tomorrow? I have questions." I hesitated. Meeting with Trevor's wife wasn't part of the plan. Hayes had specifically advised against any direct contact with the other betrayed spouse. Too many variables. Too much potential for emotional complications. But looking at that message, I thought about Linda Walsh opening an envelope and having her entire world collapse. I thought about her sitting alone with that information, trying to process it, trying to understand. "Tomorrow at 2 p.m., coffee place on Maple Street, near the library." "Thank you. I'll be there." I deleted the message thread and sat in the darkness, listening to Emily's muffled voice through the walls, still on the phone, still trying to control the narrative. The pieces were moving exactly as I'd planned, but faster than anticipated. Phase 4 was complete. Phase 5 would begin as soon as the HR investigation concluded. And tomorrow, I'd meet the other person whose life had been shattered by the same 2 people who'd promised us forever. The coffee shop was in one of those strip malls where every business looked temporary. I arrived 20 minutes early, parked 3 spaces down from the entrance, and watched the door through my rearview mirror. The manila folder sat on the passenger seat beside me, thick with documentation I'd already given to Linda Walsh but brought anyway. Force of habit. Always have backups. My phone buzzed. Emily, 3rd message since I'd left the house. "Where are you? We need to talk about what you're going to tell HR." I silenced it without responding. Linda arrived at 1:58 p.m., driving a silver Honda Civic with a car seat visible in the back. She looked smaller than I'd imagined, wearing scrubs with cartoon characters on them. Pediatric nurse, just like Jack's report had said. She sat in her car for a full minute before getting out, staring at the coffee shop entrance like it might bite her. I gave her 30 seconds, then followed. She'd chosen a corner table, 2 cups of coffee already ordered and waiting. Her hands were wrapped around one of them like she was trying to draw warmth from it, even though the shop was overheated. "David?" Her voice was quiet, controlled, professional. "Linda, thank you for meeting me." She nodded toward the other cup. "Black, right? Your investigator was thorough." I sat down, leaving the folder on the table between us. "I'm sorry about—" "Don't." She held up one hand. "Don't apologize. You didn't do this. They did." The silence stretched between us. Through the window, I could see a young mother struggling with a stroller, trying to navigate the curb. Normal life, continuing like nothing had changed. "I confronted him Wednesday night," Linda said finally, "when the letter arrived. He denied everything at first, said it was fabricated, that you were some kind of stalker trying to ruin Emily's career." She took a sip of coffee, her hand steady. "Then I showed him the photos. The GPS data, the credit card statements I'd pulled that morning. What did he say? That it was a mistake, that it didn't mean anything. Her laugh was bitter. 4 months of hotel rooms and romantic dinners, but it didn't mean anything. He actually used those words. I thought about Emily's messages, her insistence that the dinners were just networking. The same script, probably rehearsed together during their Tuesday and Thursday sessions. He's been sleeping in the guest room, Linda continued. Told the kids he has a cold. They're 7, 9, and 12. Old enough to know something's wrong, not old enough to understand what. She met my eyes. Your daughter, Mia, right? How old? 8. Does she know? Not yet. I wanted to have everything in place first. Documentation, legal strategy, custody arrangements. The words sounded hollow even to me. I wanted to control the narrative. That's why you're here. To control the narrative. It wasn't a question. I picked up the coffee, buying time. It was lukewarm and bitter. My attorney advised against this meeting, said it could complicate things. But you came anyway. I thought you deserved to know that I didn't do this to hurt you or your kids. I did it because I stopped, searching for words that didn't sound like justification. Because you wanted them to face consequences. Linda finished the sentence for me. Because you wanted everyone to know what they'd done. Because keeping it quiet felt like letting them win. Yes? She nodded slowly. The restaurants, that was clever. Making them face social consequences before the personal ones. Taking away their safe spaces. They used those places for 4 months. Pretended to be wine experts, got special treatment, group discounts, built this whole fantasy world where they were sophisticated people doing sophisticated things. I could hear the edge in my voice, forced it back down. I wanted to dismantle that world piece by piece. It worked. Trevor got a call from Bellissimo on Tuesday. The owner personally told him he was no longer welcome. Something about misrepresenting a wine society for financial gain. A ghost of a smile crossed her face. He was furious. Kept saying it was a misunderstanding, that someone had made a mistake. Not a mistake. No, not a mistake. She pulled out her phone, scrolled through something, then turned it toward me. This is from the HR investigation at Whitmore and Associates. They interviewed me yesterday. The email was formal, clinical. An investigation into inappropriate workplace relationships and misuse of company resources. Trevor Walsh and Emily Peterson both placed on administrative leave pending review. Expected timeline, 2 to 3 weeks. They asked about his schedule, Linda said, whether I'd noticed any changes in his behavior, any unexplained absences. I showed them everything you sent me, plus 6 months of credit card statements I'd pulled myself. She took her phone back. Turns out the hotel rooms weren't the only expense. There were jewelry purchases, weekend trips he claimed were client meetings, restaurant bills that didn't match the business dinner receipts he'd submitted. He was expensing it? Some of it. Not the hotel rooms, those he paid cash for, probably thought it was safer. But the dinners, the wine, some of the gifts, all submitted as client development expenses. She shook her head. The HR director said it was one of the most clear-cut cases of expense fraud they'd seen, especially combined with the relationship itself. I thought about Emily's panic, her insistence that I needed to help her explain things to HR. She'd known. They'd both known exactly how bad it was. What are you going to do? I asked. File for divorce. I already met with an attorney Thursday morning. She said the documentation you provided, combined with the financial records, gives me significant leverage. Linda's voice was matter-of-fact, like she was discussing a patient's treatment plan. Trevor makes $400,000 a year. Partner-level salary, performance bonuses, stock options. The kids and I are entitled to our share of that, and his behavior means I'll likely get primary custody. Emily's salary is $120,000, I said, plus benefits. Or it was before the administrative leave. They'll both probably be terminated. The attorney I spoke with said Whitmore and Associates has a strict ethics policy. Workplace affairs are one thing. They happen. But combined with expense fraud and misrepresentation to vendors, she shook her head. They're liability risks now. The firm won't keep them. The young mother I'd seen earlier finally made it through the door, stroller and all. She ordered something complicated, juggling a diaper bag and a fussy toddler while the barista patiently waited. Normal problems, manageable problems. I didn't come here to coordinate strategy, Linda said quietly, or to compare notes on our revenge plans. Why did you come? Because I wanted to see the person who pulled the trigger, who decided that exposing everything was worth the collateral damage. She looked at me directly. And I wanted to tell you that I'm glad you did. That if you hadn't sent that letter, I might have spent years not knowing. Wondering why my husband was distant, why our marriage felt hollow, blaming myself for not being enough. You were always enough. This isn't about you. I know that now. But I wouldn't have known it without proof. She stood up, gathering her purse and keys. My attorney said I should avoid contact with you. That our cases need to stay separate, legally distinct. This is the only time we can meet. I stood as well. I understand. Good luck with Mia, with helping her understand. Linda paused at the door. Trevor asked me this morning if there was any way to fix this, to go to counseling, to rebuild trust. I told him that trust isn't something you rebuild. It's something you either have or you don't. And once it's gone, it's gone. She left without looking back. I sat down again, staring at the untouched coffee. My phone buzzed. Emily again. HR called. They want to meet Monday morning. Please call me. We need to get our story straight. Our story. Like we were still a team. Like the past 12 years meant I owed her cover for 4 months of calculated deception. I deleted the message and pulled up my attorney's number. Robert Hayes answered on the second ring. David, how did the meeting go? Better than expected. Linda Walsh confirmed the HR investigation is moving forward. Both of them will likely be terminated. That helps our case. Financial instability, job loss due to ethical violations, all factors in custody determination. I heard papers shuffling. I have the preliminary filing ready. We can submit Monday if you're ready to proceed. Monday. The same day Emily had her HR meeting. The same day her carefully constructed world would start its final collapse. Do it, I said. The divorce papers were filed at 8:47 a.m. on Monday. I know because I received the confirmation email from Brian's office while sitting in my car outside Mia's school, watching her line up with her third-grade class. She wore the purple backpack Emily had bought her last month. Before everything. I didn't go into work. Called in sick for the first time in 3 years. Instead, I drove to a coffee shop across town where nobody knew me, ordered black coffee I didn't drink, and waited. The HR meeting was scheduled for 10 o'clock. My phone buzzed at 10:53 a.m. Emily. Please call me. Emily. David, please. Emily. I need you to pick up Mia today. I can't. I turned the phone face down on the table. At 11:17, Trevor's wife posted on social media. Not a long post, just 3 words and a changed relationship status. Starting over. Grateful. The comments flooded in within minutes. Friends offering support, asking what happened, expressing shock. Linda didn't respond to any of them. She didn't need to. The statement was made. My phone rang. Emily, I let it go to voicemail. It rang again. I powered it off. I picked Mia up at 3 o'clock like always. She climbed into the back seat, chattering about the art project they'd started. Something with tissue paper and glue. Her hands were still sticky. "Where's Mom?" she asked as I pulled away from the curb. "She had to work late today." Again? The word hit harder than it should have. "Yeah, sweetie, again." We stopped for ice cream. Mia got chocolate chip and a waffle cone, and we sat at the outdoor tables even though the weather was turning cold. She swung her legs under the bench and told me about our friend Jessica's new kitten. "Can we get a kitten, Dad?" "Maybe," I said. "We'll see." That's what you always say when you mean no. Smart kid. When we got home, Emily's car was in the driveway. I felt Mia tense beside me, picking up on something she couldn't name. Kids are like that. They sense the shift in air pressure before the storm hits. Emily was sitting at the kitchen table. No laptop, no wine glass. Just sitting there with her hands folded in front of her like she was waiting for a job interview. She looked up when we came in. Her eyes were red, makeup smudged. The careful mask she'd been wearing for months had finally cracked. "Hi, baby," she said to Mia, forcing a smile that didn't reach anywhere near her eyes. "Hi, Mom." Mia glanced between us. "I'm gonna go play in my room." She didn't wait for permission, just grabbed her backpack and disappeared upstairs. Smart kid. The silence stretched out between us. Emily opened her mouth twice before any words came out. "They fired me," she said, effective immediately. Trevor, too. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed. Said nothing. The expense reports. They found everything. Every dinner, every hotel charge that we... She stopped, started again. "They're considering legal action for fraud. The company credit card charges alone are over $18,000. $18,000. I'd seen the number in Jack's report, but hearing her say it out loud made it real in a different way. "And Linda knows," Emily continued. Her voice cracked. "Someone sent her everything. Photos, dates, messages, everything." "That's unfortunate," I said. She looked at me then, really looked at me, and something shifted in her expression. Confusion. Then the first hint of suspicion. "David, did I what?" "The wine society, the restaurants. How did they all find out at the same time? And HR, they had documentation that I never... Someone had been tracking us. GPS data. Timestamps." Her voice was rising now. "And then Linda gets this package the same weekend that everything else falls apart?" I met her eyes, kept my voice level. "Are you asking me if I knew about your affair?" "I'm asking if you..." "Yes, Emily, I knew." The air went out of the room. "How long?" she whispered. "Long enough." She stood up, hands shaking. "What did you do?" "I documented it. Every lie, every dinner, every time you told me you were at the gym while you were in room 847 at the Grandview. I hired a private investigator. I tracked your car. I forwarded your messages from Trevor's phone to mine so I could read them in real time." Her face went white. "You've been spying on me?" "I've been collecting evidence for my divorce attorney." "Divorce?" She said it like the word was foreign. "David, please. We can fix this. I made a mistake, I know I did. But we have Mia. We have 12 years. You don't get to use Mia as a shield. And those 12 years? You set them on fire the first time you checked into that hotel? I ended it, she said desperately. After HR called us in, I told Trevor it was over. We're done. It was a mistake, a stupid mistake, and I'm so sorry. You ended it because you got caught. Not because you felt guilty. Not because you thought about what you were doing to our daughter. You ended it because continuing wasn't convenient anymore. She was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. Please. I love you. I never stopped loving you. You loved me so much you created an entire fake organization so you could have romantic dinners with another man. You loved me so much you used our daughter's birthday as the password to hide your affair. You loved me so much you looked me in the eye every morning and lied. It didn't mean anything. Trevor was just $18,000 worth of nothing, 4 months of nothing. I don't care what it meant, Emily. I care what you did. She sank back into the chair, shoulders shaking. What happens now? You were served this morning. Divorce papers. Brian filed them at the courthouse at 8:47. Her head snapped up. This morning, while I was at HR? The timing seemed appropriate. You planned this. Her tears were stopping now, replaced by something colder. All of it. The restaurants finding out, HR, Linda. You orchestrated everything. I made sure the right people had the right information at the right time. You destroyed my career, my reputation. You sent that package to Linda knowing it would destroy Trevor's marriage. Trevor destroyed his own marriage. You both did. I just made sure the people you were lying to found out the truth. This is revenge, she said. You're punishing me. No, Emily. I'm protecting myself and our daughter. There's a difference. She stood up again, anger replacing the tears. You think you're so smart, so methodical, but you know what? You're just as bad as… Don't. My voice cut through hers like a blade. Don't you dare try to make this about me. You don't get to play victim here. You made choices. Every single day for 4 months you made choices. You chose Trevor. You chose those dinners, those hotels, those lies. Now you get to live with the consequences. What about Mia? Did you think about her when you were planning your revenge? Every single second. That's why I documented everything. That's why I have proof of what you did. Because when she's old enough to ask why her parents got divorced, I'll have answers. Real ones, not lies. Emily's phone buzzed on the table. She glanced at it. Then again, longer. Her face changed. The wine community, she said quietly. There's a forum. Someone posted about the fake society. About me and Trevor. Everyone's sharing it. There are screenshots of the restaurant letters, the HR investigation. She looked up at me. You did this too? I sent the information to one person who I knew would find it relevant. What they did with it wasn't my concern. You're destroying me. You destroyed yourself. I'm just making sure everyone knows about it. She grabbed her phone and her purse. I need to leave. I need to think. You can pack a bag if you want, but if you're not back by 6, I'm changing the locks. This is my house, too. For now, that'll change. She stared at me like she'd never seen me before. Maybe she hadn't. Maybe the person she'd been married to for 12 years had been someone I'd performed, and this was who I actually was underneath. Or maybe I'd become this person in the last 4 months. Either way, it didn't matter anymore. She left without another word. I heard her car start, then pull away. Upstairs, Mia's music was playing. Some pop song about friendship and sunshine. I stood in the kitchen where my wife had just fallen apart, where our marriage had officially ended, and I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No regret. Just the quiet certainty that I'd done what needed to be done. My phone powered back on. 17 missed calls. 23 texts. I deleted them all without reading them. Then I went upstairs to help my daughter with her homework. 3 months later, I stood in my new apartment's kitchen making breakfast for Mia. Smaller kitchen than the house. Simpler. The morning light came through the window differently here. Sharper somehow, less filtered. "Dad, my waffle's ready," Mia called from the table. I plated it, added the strawberries she liked, sat down across from her. She'd adjusted better than I'd expected. Kids are resilient in ways that make you grateful and heartbroken at the same time. The divorce was finalized 2 weeks ago. Emily didn't contest anything in the end. Couldn't, really, not with the documentation. I got primary custody. She got supervised visitation every other weekend, once she found stable employment. The house sold quickly. We split the proceeds according to the settlement Brian had negotiated. Emily moved back in with her parents in North Carolina. Last I heard, she was working retail while looking for something in her field. The termination from Whitmore and Associates had made that difficult. Turns out companies do background checks, call references, ask questions about employment gaps. Trevor Walsh's divorce was messier than mine. Linda took him for everything Brian said she would. The 3 kids stayed with her. Trevor moved into a 1-bedroom downtown, took a position at a smaller firm for half his previous salary. I saw him once, at a coffee shop near my office. He didn't recognize me, or pretended not to. I didn't care either way. "Can we go to the park after breakfast?" Mia asked, syrup on her chin. "Sure, sweetie." "Will Mom be there?" "Not today. You'll see her next weekend, remember?" She nodded, went back to her waffle. The question came less frequently now. The initial confusion, "Why are we moving? Where's Mom? Why can't things be like before?" had settled into acceptance. This was normal now. 2 homes, 2 bedrooms, a schedule on the refrigerator. I'd started therapy 6 weeks ago. Not couples therapy. That ship had sailed and sunk. Just regular therapy, working through what Brian called processing the betrayal and rebuilding trust in yourself. The therapist, Dr. Rachel Kim, didn't judge the way I'd handled things. Didn't praise it either. Just helped me understand why I'd needed such complete control over the dismantling. "You experienced a profound loss of agency when you discovered the affair," she'd said in our second session. "Taking control of the narrative was your way of reclaiming it." Maybe. Or maybe I just wanted them to hurt the way I'd hurt. Probably both. Mia finished her breakfast and ran to get her shoes. I cleaned up the kitchen, watching the neighborhood through the window. Different streets, different people. A complete reset. My phone buzzed. A text from Brian. "Trevor Walsh filed for bankruptcy this morning. Thought you'd want to know." I stared at the message for a moment, then deleted it. That part of my life was over. Trevor's financial collapse, Emily's struggle to rebuild her career, the professional consequences that kept rippling outward, none of it mattered anymore. What mattered was the 8-year-old girl in the next room, tying her shoes, still innocent enough to believe that parks and strawberries could fix anything. The revenge had been methodical, complete. I'd dismantled their affair with the same precision I'd once used to build software systems. Every piece documented, every consequence calculated, Every domino placed exactly where it needed to fall. And it had worked. They'd lost everything I'd intended them to lose. But standing in that kitchen, watching Mia struggle with a double knot, I understood something Dr. Kim had been trying to tell me. Revenge doesn't heal the wound. It just makes sure everyone knows you're bleeding. Emily had betrayed me. That was true. She'd lied, cheated, risked our family for an affair that meant nothing in the end. Also true. But the person I'd become in response, calculating, cold, orchestrating the destruction of lives with spreadsheets and documentation, that person scared me sometimes. Late at night, when Mia was asleep and the apartment was quiet, I'd wonder if I'd gone too far. If there was a version of this story where I'd confronted Emily directly, where we'd tried therapy, where Mia still had her parents together even if damaged, then I'd remember the messages, the lies, the fake wine society, the way Emily had looked me in the eye every morning and performed our marriage while building another life entirely. And I'd know I'd made the only choice I could live with. "Ready, Dad?" Mia appeared in the doorway, jacket on backward, smile wide. "Let me fix your jacket, kiddo." She turned around, patient while I straightened it. When she faced me again, I saw Emily in her eyes. The Emily from 12 years ago, before everything. The woman I'd loved enough to build a life with. That woman was gone. Maybe she'd never existed. Maybe I'd loved a performance, and the real Emily was the one who could lie so easily, who could compartmentalize an affair while making school lunches and kissing me goodbye. I'd never know for sure. What I did know, trust, once shattered, doesn't rebuild. You can't unknow a betrayal. You can't unsee the messages, unhear the lies, unfeel the specific pain of discovering that your entire life was built on sand. All you can do is start over. Smaller kitchen, simpler life, one waffle at a time. "Park time," Mia grabbed my hand, pulling me toward the door. I let her pull me. Let the morning light hit us as we stepped outside. Let the future be uncertain and the past be finished. The revenge was complete. The marriage was over. The documentation sat in a storage unit somewhere, evidence of a war that nobody won. And in the end, that was the truth they don't tell you about betrayal and revenge. There are no winners. Just people trying to survive the wreckage, rebuilding what they can from the pieces that remain. I'd protected my daughter, secured my future, made sure Emily and Trevor faced consequences for their choices. But I couldn't go back to the person I'd been before I'd discovered that burner phone message at 2:47 a.m. That version of David, the one who trusted easily, who believed in the permanence of love, who thought 12 years meant something unbreakable, was gone. Maybe that was the real cost. Not the marriage, not the house, not the money spent on lawyers and investigators. The cost was innocence, the belief that people mean what they say, that vows are sacred, that the person sleeping beside you is exactly who they claim to be. "Dad, you're walking too slow." Mia tugged my hand, and I sped up, matching her pace. The park was 3 blocks away. We had the whole morning ahead of us. Behind us, the apartment building where we'd started over. Ahead, a playground where my daughter could just be 8 years old, where the weight of adult betrayals didn't exist yet. I'd spent 3 months orchestrating the perfect revenge. Now I'd spend the rest of my life teaching Mia something different. That when people break your trust, you don't have to break them back. You just have to be strong enough to walk away. I hadn't learned that lesson myself. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I could still teach it to her. And maybe that would be enough.